Mr. Chairman. Before I propound my questions, Mr. Chairman, may I inquire from the Secretariat whether the requested documents other than the documents pertaining to his citizenship were already submitted?
Secretary.
Yes, yesterday, Madam Congresswoman, there was an envelope submitted to the Commission on Appointments. I understand they also submitted to Your Honor, Madam Chair.
No, that I said the other documents other than the documents pertaining to his citizenship, because the majority leader read a lot of a list of documents requested from the Honorable Secretary to be submitted to this commission. So has he complied?
I am informed, Congresswoman, that there are documents now at the Secretariat still for distribution.
Okay. Yeah, maybe request
Would you
them to be
need
furnished.
them now before you propound your questions?
No, I will limit my questions to the question of citizenship.
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you.
Just with the permission
Senator
of
Pangilinan.
yes, Mr. Chairman, with the permission of Congresswoman Sato. There are documents, but are these the documents requested? I mean, I think that's the question.
Senator, they will just be opened now.
So we.
Anyway, in the meantime, you can proceed, Representative Sato.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I remember distinctly my first two statements before I propounded questions to the Honorable Secretary was that I firmly believe that he was qualified or highly qualified to become the Secretary of the Department of Foreign Affairs. But I wanted to clear some issues that were being raised. But I did not, at that point in time, made reference to any news organization or to any newspapers. Because at that time, I had some unofficial documents showing that he was an American citizen. And I gave him the opportunity by asking questions, whether, and that was a very categorical question, and I asked him to categorically answer my question, whether he was an American citizen, or if ever he became an American citizen at any point in time of his life. He said, he answered to my first question, he said, I did not legally acquire American citizenship. And I said, can you please, and my second question was, were you ever an American citizen? Please answer that categorically. And he said, he was never, or he never became an American citizen. And he said that he had some documents to prove that he never was an American citizen. So I asked for those documents, and he said that he would be furnishing this representation on behalf of the Commission. And I was surprised that right after the suspension of our hearing, he handed me an envelope containing a certificate of loss of nationality of the United States dated June 28, 2016. The packet or the envelope also contained a letter dated February 23, 1993, addressed to the District Director of the Immigration and Naturalization Service of Newark, New Jersey, and an affidavit dated February 23, 1993, wherein the first paragraph of that affidavit states, and I quote, the first paragraph was, I, Perfecto R. Yasay Jr., of legal age, after being duly sworn to in accordance with law, hereby depose and state that, number one, on November 26, 1986, I was granted United States citizenship by the U.S. District Court, District of New Jersey, under petition number 12831295. And that on paragraph 8 of that same affidavit, he said that I am executing this affidavit to attest to the truth of all the foregoing and to affirm and to admit the fact that when I applied and was granted United States citizenship, I did not intend to reside in the U.S. and that I abandoned my U.S. residency within 1 year from the date of said naturalization to establish and acquire permanent residency in the Philippines, thereby rendering me ineligible and disqualified for that citizenship. And he also furnished his representation copies of his Philippine passport and copies of his United States visa. Mr. Chairman, this clearly shows that he has admitted that at some point in time, particularly on November 26, 1986, he was granted an American citizen. And up to this very moment, he would tell us now that he never was an American citizen. So that I would just want to categorically again ask him and for him to categorically answer yes or no, whether at one point in time in your life were you ever an American citizen? Just a yes or no, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair.
Please respond.
Yeah, thank you very much. I wish I could answer that question with a yes or no, but as directly as I could in answering that question, I have always admitted that I was granted U.S. citizenship. That is my answer. I was granted U.S. citizenship in November 26, 1986. But it is my position that that grant of U.S. citizenship at that time was void ab initio on the basis of the explanation I have stated in my affidavits.
Chairman, with all due respect, I cannot understand why the Honorable Secretary cannot answer that simple question with a yes or no. And if he said that he admits now that he was granted on November 26, that his petition for U.S. citizenship was granted on November 26, 1986, but he said that that U.S. citizenship granted to him was void ab initio. But the question now, Mr. Chairman, is who declared your citizenship as void ab initio? Was it your intention? Your mere intention would void the grant of American citizenship? I mean, you are a lawyer. Some of us here are lawyers. Please respect us. We know the law. And I would be asking you, you said that you are a lawyer authorized to practice law in the United States, and you are also an immigration lawyer. Now, can I ask you, Mr. Secretary, what is the procedure in applying for a U.S. citizenship, and what is the procedure to declare a granted American citizen as null and void ab initio, or who declares that that the citizenship granted to you by the U.S. government is no longer valid and existing? Can you please educate us, Mr. Secretary?
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Mr. Chair, the Immigration and Nationality Act of the United States particularly provides that anyone with a preconceived intent to abandon his residency or her residency at the time of the application and grant of citizenship is disqualified to be granted that. So on that basis, by operation of that law, the grant is null and void. Now, in answer to the question about what is the process is you are supposed to be subject to denaturalization proceedings as a basis to remove your citizenship on that disqualification. However, I precisely voluntarily admitted that I was disqualified, and that avoided a denaturalization proceedings that would have subjected me thereafter to deportation. That was the only course of action I took, because I was already here in the Philippines at that time. As I stated, I returned on January 8 of 1987.
Mr. Chairman, so am I now being made to believe that you can lose an American citizenship by your own personal preconceived intention that you will not permanently reside in the United States? When you took your oath, Mr. Secretary, when you applied for citizenship, did you not swear that you swear allegiance to the United States and that you have complied with all the requirements necessary for the grant of citizenship? Wasn't it a very, for lack of a better term, you fooled the United States of America when you applied for a citizenship with a preconceived intention not to reside permanently in the United States and to abandon your citizenship in that country. Were you truthful in your oath to that country, the United States of America?
Mr. Chair, when I applied for, as I've said in the last hearing, when I applied for U.S. citizenship, naturalization as U.S. citizen before 1986, the hope for all of those in exile in the United States as Filipinos had been stuffed out by the assassination of Senator Benigno Aquino. We were active in the movement for Free Philippines at the time, and that was the lowest point in our life, as I said. When I applied, that application was never acted upon. In 1986, even before that application was acted upon, particularly in February 22 of 1986, People Power came about. And on that basis, thereafter, 3 days after, I returned to the Philippines. And I looked at the conditions in the Philippines, and I said to myself, no, I will now return to the Philippines as I pledged. During that time when I entered the United States, I was only going to come back if President Marcos would no longer be in the Philippines, or if martial law would have been completely dismantled. When I came back, however, I was faced with this the grant of my United States citizen. So I took my oath. I got a certificate of naturalization, but at that time, I already made up my mind precisely to go home on the basis of changed conditions in the country. So that 3 months after I took that oath, I immediately returned and abandoned that residency. You might call it, and I admit, there is a misrepresentation there on my part, for not divulging that. And this is precisely what the law is all about when it says preconceived intent and intention to abandon your residency. And I submitted myself to to American law on this point. But rather than be subject to denaturalization proceedings and try to contest that, I precisely voluntarily admitted that I was not qualified on the basis of that law. And that explains why I had that preconceived intent and that disqualification that retroacted up to the time that I applied and was granted for that citizenship void ab initio.
Mr. Chairman, you know, what the Secretary is referring to, that he executed an affidavit in 1993 stating or making a statement against his self-interest that when he applied for a U.S. citizenship and he was granted this application or petition, he said that he did not intend to reside in the United States and that he actually abandoned it. And that was in 1993, 7 years after he was granted an American citizenship. And this affidavit, Mr. Chairman, was sent by registered mail to the district commissioner of the state of New Jersey. But I believe that by merely sending a letter stating therein that I no longer am an American citizen because at the time when I applied, I did not have that intention to reside permanently, is not a compliance with the law. He should personally, as far as I know, and I do not claim a good immigration lawyer as he is, but I think and I believe and I know that the process in renouncing or losing your U.S. citizenship is to personally appear before a consular officer of the United States of America, which the Honorable Secretary did on June 28, 2016, when he personally appeared before Vice Consul Christy M. Holler and before her renounced his American citizenship. And this is not the operative act, Mr. Chairman, because you have to wait that that the United States of America has to announce the approval of your renunciation. And that happened only on February 9, 2017, when in the official publication of the United States of America, through the U.S. Internal Revenue Service, released a list of citizens who have lost their U.S. citizenship. I do not understand, Mr. Chairman, why the Honorable Secretary cannot admit to this commission that he was an American citizen and he only lost his American citizenship in February of 2017. It's so easy for him to admit that and say, but I am now a Filipino citizen. Is it because, Mr. Chairman, that at the time he was appointed as a commissioner and chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission, he was still an American citizen? Is it because, Mr. Chairman, that at the time he filed his certificate of candidacy for senator and declared under oath that he was a Filipino citizen, he was in fact an American citizen? Is it because, Mr. Chairman, that when he filed his certificate of candidacy for vice president, he again misrepresented to be a Filipino citizen when in fact he was still an American citizen?
What do you say, Secretary?
Mr. Chair, I respect the views of the good Congresswoman. I am not in a position to belabor that point in a discussion of the legal nuances of what I have said and what she has said. Suffice it to say that if she will look at that certificate of loss that I applied in June 28, it was also approved. And you see the stamp there of the U.S. Embassy of the Department of State that it was approved on that same day. But if you will see the approval on that same day, on the next page of that affidavit is the basis upon which that approval was made, which is precisely the affidavit that I executed admitting disqualification in 1993 that retroacted to the day at which I acquired and was granted that naturalization certificate. So you see, the basis of that, while the form might have been a renunciation form, as the good Congresswoman has stated, the reason for the loss of my nationality had made reference precisely to that act of not being qualified to become an American citizen on November 26, 1986, which is very clear on the documents that has been referred to and which I submitted as part of my evidence. Be that as it may, Mr. Chair, the issue about whether or not I am right or I am wrong is, and the question of whether or not I am right or I am wrong will have to be determined by in the proper forum for purposes of precisely resolving whether or not I had lost my Filipino citizenship. It is not on whether or not I lost my American citizenship because American law applies there, but it is on the question of whether or not I lost my Filipino citizenship. And I just would like to say this in the context of the fact that there had been allegations that I had perjured and I have lied before this commission. I would like to state here and now again, I did not lie. I may not have fully disclosed what was required in my answering this question, but this is really normal in a process like this. When you're asked before an august body like this, questions like the one that has been asked of me, you get nervous. You somehow come up with answers that you do not intend. And I apologize for that. But now, precisely, I came up with my statement in writing to make sure that I will not be misunderstood in this respect. And for that, Mr. Chair, Your Honor, I apologize for any inadvertent or misleading that I might have made.
May I just state that this is also a proper forum to determine your qualification?
That is correct. That is correct. I agree with that, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, you know, this is not going anywhere. And I would like to rest my case. But before that, why can the Honorable Secretary not admit the truth that he was an American citizen, when in fact he admitted it to his guesting in a TV station, when he was categorically asked whether he was an American citizen? And during the last hearing, Mr. Chairman, I categorically asked him whether he carried passport number 121190223, and he also categorically answered me that he never held that passport. But he admitted in his interview that he was an American citizen and he held this passport. Well, anyway, he does not want, I do not understand why he can admit it in a TV station and cannot admit it before this Honorable Commission. And before I rest my case, I am just worried, Mr. Chairman, because DZRH posted a live interview of Secretary Yasay this morning. And I quote, "The Secretary has suspicion that questioning his citizenship in the Commission on Appointments is part of the destabilization effort against the administration." It pains me, Mr. Chairman, that anything and everything that cannot be answered will be attributed to the destabilization plan. This is unpardonable, Mr. Chairman. the actuation of the Honorable Secretary, at the very least, is contemptuous of this commission. Thank you.
Kindly respond.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Your Honors. I apologize if that is the kind of impression that you got on that basis. But let me first say at the onset that what I admitted before the interview with Karen Davila is the same admission that I've always consistently made here. I did not legally acquire U.S. citizenship. I also said there, and as I'm saying here now, that when I denied having an American passport, I denied the allegations that came out in media, particularly in Rappler, that I was issued a U.S. passport in 2006 bearing the number that Congresswoman Sato had mentioned, which I do not have any personal knowledge about. And I said that consistently. Now, third, when I said that questioning my citizenship before the Commission on Appointments, I did not refer to Congressman, to the good and Honorable Congressman Sato, and I apologize, ma'am, if I have made the impression that I was referring to you. I was referring to the accusations made through Rappler. And I personally believe that on that basis, this accusation was made not only to embarrass me, but more importantly, to embarrass the appointing authority, and maybe perhaps this is part of the destabilization effort. I never mentioned that anybody questioning here my citizenship, which is your duty, which is your obligation, is part of any destabilization effort. I was referring to those from the outside trying to question my citizenship within this commission, this August round.
Mr. Chairman, it was very, very clear that what he said was the questioning his citizenship in the CA is part of the destabilization effort against the administration. Did he say this, Mr. Chairman, because I, who are propounding the questions about his citizenship, is a member of the Liberal Party of
There
the
is a
Philippines?
question. Do you confirm having
But
said
Mr.
or
Chairman-
uttered those statements?
I confirm having made statements to that effect in the show of Karen Davila, but I also confirm that I did not refer to any destabilization effort being undertaken by anyone who is a member of this august body, the Commission on Appointments. I was specifically referring to outside efforts. Remember, Mr. Chair, if you will just read the newspapers, there have been a lot of columnists, including a former Secretary of Foreign Affairs, who have always been attacking me for things that are baseless and without, including my alleged intervention in preventing an ambassador from sitting as ambassador in the United Kingdom. But this is precisely because they were saying these things as an effort to show that I am incompetent, that I am disqualified, as a ploy to embarrass. But never did I make that reference that it was anybody. And if I did, if this is the impression that I committed, ma'am, I apologize. God is my witness. My heart is open. I never said this. And I apologize very sincerely if I hurt you on this, because it has never been my intention
And I
to do
hope
so.
God would enlighten you to tell the truth before this committee. And I would like to tell you, Mr. Secretary, that the loyalty to my party stops when my loyalty to my country begins.